Thank you, Your Honor. I'm about to do my opening statement. Hopefully, it gives you a very general outline of what this case is about. And then, as you hear each witness testify and as you see each exhibit and each piece of evidence is going to fill in the details. And when it all comes together, you will see at the end is that Laura Araiza was murdered by the defendant Livieli Kamal. And you will see in the end is that Livieli had the motive to kill Laura Araiza. She did in fact kill Laura and then she tried to cover it up. But to get to that ending, we have to start at the beginning in mid 2017. Laura, the deceased in this case, was entangled in some court proceedings and some financial issues with her ex-husband, Laura Asira. And while that was all going on, Livieli withdrew $100,000 from the bank when she wasn't supposed to, cause Laura asked her friend, the defendant Livieli, to help hide the money. Early September of 2017, Laura had a court date that was coming up with her ex-husband, and she told the defendant repeatedly that she needed to get to the bank. She needed to get to the bank. She needed to get her money out, and she needed to put it in a escrow account with her ex-husband, or she was going to be in trouble with the court. The pressure that Laura was putting on in Livieli to get this money, and the reason that matters is because the money was completely gone. Laura texts to the defendant, "They're going to hold me in contempt for not paying child support and not putting the $25,000 into the escrow. They could potentially put me in jail if I don't pay the child support." On September 7th, text message from Laura to the defendant, "Please, don't be late. They're going to put me in jail if I don't make that deposit today again. They're going to check your ID in order to get into that box, so I need you to come with me. And waiting on you at my house bank closed at 4 o'clock. This is way too important for me not to do today. I'm under a court order." Friday, September 8, 2017 is the last day that Laura is known to be alive. She was with the defendant and they were supposed to be going to the bank. Laura was never seen alive again. She planned with his defendant show up at Cassandra's house too, and the reason she went to Cassandra's house is because Laura was in the process of moving in, as a matter of fact, a lot of her belongings were boxed up in a box truck that belonged to Livieli, and it was parked in Cassandra's driveway. But in any event, Livieli showed up at that morning as planned at around 10 o'clock that morning. Livieli and Laura left together and then Cassandra went about her business that day. She sent Laura a couple of text messages that morning, and she would get responses, but the text messages from Laura stopped around 11:30 in that morning on September 8th. Cassandra sent Laura a couple more texts after lunch, and there was absolutely no response from her. Finally, around 4 o'clock, Cassandra sent a text to the defendant and she said, "Are you okay? Laura has not responded to me in hours." The defendant replied, "Yes, ma'am." So Cassandra texts back and say, "Can you please have Laura call me?" Around 7:30 p.m. that same day, all in September 8, Cassandra still had not heard from Laura. She texted Livieli again, and she said that after her and Laura left his farm in Milton, they went back to Livieli's house around 5 or 5:15. Laura said she was going to call an Uber and she was going to have a drink, and then Laura never saw her again. Within about 20 minutes of this phone call between Livieli and Cassandra, Cassandra received a text from Laura's phone. and he says something like that. I'll call you later. I need to get my life organized. What will be clear to you by the end of this trial is that this defendant sent that text from Laura's phone to Cassandra because Laura was dead at that point. Defendant still had her cell phone later that same night. Again, on September 8th, just before midnight, defendant said Cassandra text and say, I just got a text from Laura. And then she screenshotted it and sent it to Cassandra, and it was Laura supposedly saying, I'm okay, I just need time to think. What will be clear to you is that Laura did not send that text. It was the defendant because the defendant had Laura's phone. On Saturday 7 September 9, there was still nothing from Laura. On Sunday, September 10th, Cassandra called the Pensacola Police Department, but at that point it had only been 48 hours since Laura had gone missing. On Thursday, September 14th, Cassandra went to the police department and formally filed a missing persons report. Friday, September 15th, Detective Daniel Amaro with the Pensacola Police Department was assigned to the case, and obviously one of the first people that he went to speak with is Livielli. She was the last person now to be with Laura. So he called Livielli on the phone and she basically said, yes, we're friends. We were together on September 8th. I picked her up. We ran around. We went to this farm in Milton and then we went back to my house and left a few days later. Detective Daniel went to Cassandra's homes and was going through some of Laura's belongings that were still there, and he found a $9,000 cashier check made out. And Doug, why would someone voluntarily go missing and leave behind $9,000? It's a lot of money. That same day, Detective Daniel went to Livielli's house. He was speaking with Livielli, but she never got back to him about this property or provided any information. Detective Daniel said, well, when you get this information about this other farm, please let me know. I'd like to see it. On September 24, 28, and October 2nd, defendant called Detective Daniel and asked if there were any updates. She told him that she thought Laura was most comfortable and staying, and that's probably where she was. October 19, 2017, Livielli was interviewed again at the Pensacola Police Department, but by this point, the investigators had gotten Laura's cell phone records, and they also gotten Livielli's cell phone tower records, and they found out where this property was at the north end of the county. They had gotten back records for Laura and Livielli, and what they found was that there was a $34,000 cashier check made out to Laura that was deposited in August of 2017. They asked Livielli about this cashier check, and she acknowledged that she did deposit that check. The signature did not look anything like Laura Wright. Phone tower records and they showed that she was not at this farm in Milton at the time that she says her and Laura were out there on September 8th, but instead, her cell phone was used in towers near the property that she kept dodging questions about. She said Laura had never been, but now, on October 19th of 2017, the defendant said that she and Laura did go out to that property on September 8th of 2017. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that same day, on October 19th of 2017, while this defendant was being interviewed, police were executing a search warrant of that property on Bridge Road and located along a fence lying in a wooded area where the remains of Mrs. Laura. She was skeletonized. She was wrapped in a hammock. She had a bullet hole in the back right side of the skull, and she had pouring salt and concrete poured on top of her. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. A few days after Laura's body was found on Breed Road, an investigator went to the Home Depot out there 9 Mile and located a video of the defendant Livieli in Home Depot, buying a pouring salt and concrete. On September 9th, the day after Laura went missing and was last seen with Livieli, you will see through the all evidence and by the end of the trial that Livieli had in fact the motive, had the opportunity, and how she tried to cover it up. You will see, ladies and gentlemen, you will see beyond a reasonable doubt that Livieli murdered Laura, and she did it over money. Over money. Laura's money that Laura needed back, but that Livieli had already spent it.
There is no question that what happened to Laura is a tragedy. No one in this courtroom is going to dispute that on October 19, 2017, Laura's body was found in a shallow grave of a fence line on the Brett family farm with a gunshot wound to the back on her head. Now, during this trial, there will be no evidence introduced showing you exactly when and where Laura was killed. What the evidence is going to show you is that sometime around September 8, 2017, Laura stopped communicating with people she knew, but you're going to learn from the evidence that was not exactly surprising. You see, recently Laura had gone through a contentious divorce with her ex-husband Lauro in the summer of 2017. Things were amped up between Laura and Lauro. Mr. Lauro was alleging that Laura had recently taken 100,000 from a joint account, and Mr. Lauro was fighting to try to get this money back from Laura. On September 7, 2017, there was a hearing scheduled in Okaloosa County to deal with this money used between Laura and Lauros, and this is just a day or two before Laura stops communicating with people. Now, the evidence is going to show you that Miss Laura didn't appear for this hearing to deal with this money. The evidence will show you that he's clearly frustrated with Laura, and he's not surprising at all when she doesn't show up to court on September 7, 2017. At the same time, spring 2017, Laura meets a woman named Cassandra, and they become involved in a romantic relationship. The evidence is going to show you that this was described as volatile relationship just weeks before Laura stops communicating. The relationship hid several things. First, Cassandra discovered that Laura had a relationship with another woman over in Mississippi area. Additionally, Laura is also possibly using illegal drugs. You're gonna see from the evidence that when Miss Cassandra couldn't get in touch with Laura on September 8, 2017, her first emotion was not really concern but frustration and anger. There won't be any evidence on exactly when Laura was killed or where she was killed, because you're gonna hear from several witnesses who spent substantial time out at the Beal family farm. You could hear from witnesses such as Kevin Cervantes, who actually lives at that time at the Beal family farm, and another. These witnesses will tell you that while they were working on the farm, they didn't notice or see anything like cement being had been mixed up somewhere, putting soil anywhere. On this fence line, they didn't not notice anything unusual and unusual at all on this farm while they were doing that work. Out there now to fully understand this case. You're gonna to learn a little bit something about the relationship that Laura had with Livieli. They were friends. They hung out. They didn't brunch to. They did. They did brunch together, and I think in August they even took a trip to New Orleans together. Mrs. Livieli went on occasion even watched Laura's son when Laura needed to work and had no one to watch. Mrs. Livieli gave, gave Laura a key to hear. We believe the evidence is going to show you that the relationship between the two of them was very as well show you as a state name mentioned in their opening that they didn't did some financial transaction together. You'll hear is that around August of 2017, Laura and Livieli together put some money in a checking account. Now, the check that meant now the check that went in this checking account, yes, as original in the name of Livieli, and it was for 34 to 36,000. Law enforcement went to that warehouse, searched and processed that warehouse. As I told you, in Laura's body was found in a shallow grave near the property line of the Britt family farm, but as you can imagine, that site where Laura's body was located was searched and processed by law enforcement. You were gonna learn that barn was searched and processed by law enforcement. To learn that law enforcement search processed that residence, of course, the entire Villa farm. Through this case, you will see there will be no physical evidence introduced in this trial showing you that Livieli had anything to do with the death of Laura. There will be no scientific or expert testimony introduced in this trial showing you that Livieli had anything to do with that. There'll be no eyewitness testimony introduced into evidence showing you that Livieli had anything to do with the death of Laura. There will be no murder weapon introduced into the evidence that has any connection to Livieli. I ask you to remember a couple of things. Remember, this is not a trial about whether you believe Livieli is a good person or not. If you like her or not, that's not with this case about. Remember that your job as a jury is to determine at the state the ones with the burden have proven beyond into the exclusion of every reasonable doubt that Livieli committed the crime of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm. In the end, we believe the evidence will show you that the state's case is built on yes lies told by Livieli, but their case will not be built on witness testimony. It will not be built on physical evidence or scientific evidence. We believe that you will have reasonable doubt in this case, and with that we're gonna ask you to turn a verdict of not guilty in this matter.